Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Molly Hudson. Thank you for joining us. Arizona is seeing 4 times as many positive COVID-19 cases this week compared to the last 2 weeks, and now our state is in danger of losing federal COVID funding. The Biden administration is threatening to ask for Arizona to return its funds because of state policies it says discourages the federal recommendation to wear masks in schools. 2 state programs direct funding away from schools and districts with mask requirements. The Treasury Department sent a letter to state officials today warning the state has 60 days to remove the anti-masking provisions. If it doesn't, the federal government could ask for relief money to be paid back and could withhold the next round of aid as well. 2 Arizona lawmakers have now tested positive for COVID-19 since the new session began on Monday. House members Daniel Hernandez Jr. from Tucson and Marcelino Quinones from Phoenix are both currently quarantining at home. Marcelino Quinones first went to Twitter yesterday afternoon to announce his positive test. Then last night, Daniel Hernandez Jr. also announced on Twitter that he contracted the virus. Both lawmakers say they're vaccinated and experiencing no symptoms. The Supreme Court has blocked the Biden administration from enforcing its vaccine and testing requirements aimed at large businesses in the U.S. The decision comes as a huge hit to Biden's efforts in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. The rule would have impacted 80 million individuals and require employers with 100 or more employees to ensure their employees are fully vaccinated, regularly tested, and masked. It ruled 6-3 with 6 conservative justices in the majority and 3 liberal justices dissenting. But a vaccine mandate is still set to go into effect nationwide for certain healthcare workers. U.S. Customs and Border Protection's agents made quite the rescue Monday afternoon when they say they were told of a stranded migrant near some mountains near Tucson. Border Patrol agents teamed up with an air and marine operations crew to make the rescue. When rescue crews arrived, they say the woman was severely dehydrated and unable to walk, so they used a helicopter to get her and the crews off the mountain. The woman was then given medical help. Customs and Border Protection say there's been more than 300,000 encounters along the southern border since October. The city of Scottsdale is now asking for help with water conservation efforts. It wants residents, visitors, and businesses to take a look at how much water they're using and reduce that amount by 5%. This all comes as the state enters a Colorado River supply shortage. The shortage, which was declared last summer, went into effect on January 1st and means that Central Arizona Project's water supply will be cut by 30% this year. While this is the first stage of Scottsdale's drought management plan, there may be more restrictions in the future. The city of Scottsdale did list some ways residents can help. These include making a water budget, reducing the amount of grass in your yard, and adjusting irrigation timers regularly. It's been a big year for Mars rover Perseverance, and Arizona has a big role in the mission. ASU helped build the camera on board. Professors here will analyze those images and as well as rocks collected on the red planet. Here's a look at the mission so far.
Touchdown confirmed.
In the 10 months since the rover has landed, we've been busy, and it's been a year of perseverance. From operating during COVID to the challenges we experienced with sampling to interpreting the scientific results. It's such an appropriate name for the vehicle, but also for the team and the mission itself. This mission has a series of firsts that will help future generations understand more about our solar system. One of my favorite moments was seeing our first rock core sample. Looking down the tube when it was still in the drill bit and confirming that it was indeed a success. Now that we've collected samples, everyone wants to know when and how they'll be coming back. We can't wait for the future mission to pick them up and ferry them to Earth to analyze if any of them show signs of ancient life.
The first flight of a powered aircraft to another planet.
Another highlight of this year was working with the helicopter team to deploy ingenuity and experience the first powered flight on another planet. It was so amazing to see the team adapt to the environmental changes in order to keep flying. The helicopter has become a real asset and partner to our science team. It feels great to be part of making history. What motivates us as engineers and scientists exploring another planet is the opportunity to continuously learn more. Now that we've toured the floor of Jezero Crater, we look forward to investigating the Delta, a part of the crater where a river fed into a lake in the distant past. It's almost as if we're starting a new mission because we'll start to cover new ground and make new scientific discoveries. What I'm most proud of is the team, how we operate the rover, overcome challenges, and the dedication that everyone brings to their job each and every day.
All right.
Coming to the city of Glendale, a makeover to modernize Gila River Arena following the exit of the Arizona Coyotes. Glendale leaders announced Tuesday that the city has already hired an engineering firm to lead the renovation of the venue. The 2-year project is expected to cost around $40 to $50 million for the complete transformation. And the Glendale city manager hopes the modernization will attract high-profile national and international acts to the entire Westgate Entertainment District. And now a look back at stories dealing with transportation in our state, from shipping issues to the next generation of NASCAR vehicles.
As a growing supply chain crisis is delaying the delivery of goods across the country, the Port of Los Angeles is expanding to operate 24/7. Los Angeles Bureau reporter Jude Binkley went to the ports to see how workers hope to clear a massive backup of container ships from China and other countries.
Nearly 40% of all America's imports come from the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. But supply chain disruptions mean that ships have been waiting at anchor for extended periods. The White House finalized a deal to have the Port of Los Angeles operate around the clock to help combat these disruptions and end the bottleneck that threatens the holiday season.
As a nation, having the flexibility and the fluidity of 24/7 operations is really important. I think we all understand that the whole supply chain in the United States, and in fact globally, was creaking along before the pandemic. The pandemic laid bare with its increased volumes and with its different buying patterns, it laid bare a system that really needs to be modified.
When President Biden made this announcement, there were 62 ships at anchor in San Pedro Bay, with 25 more on the way. Now, half of those ships are coming here to the Port of Los Angeles, with the other half going to the neighboring port of Long Beach, which is also expanding their operations. While the agreement was reached last Wednesday, the transition to 24/7 operations won't be immediate. With over 100,000 companies dealing with imports at the Port of LA, authorities say it could take time to get everyone on the same page.
The work here will be fast. It has to be. We've got milestones ahead of us. We've got 62 container ships at anchor. We've got goods that need to flow for the holiday season. So we understand the stakes that are in front of us and the work that has to be done.
With some companies facing months-long delays for shipping containers, the shift to nonstop operations reflects a push to modernize our shipping infrastructure.
24/7 system, what most of the leading countries in the world already operate on now, except us, until now. This is the first key step toward moving our entire freight, transportation, and logistical supply chain nationwide to a 24/7 system.
As part of this deal, major suppliers like Walmart, UPS, FedEx, and Home Depot have committed to unloading cargo during off-peak hours to help the port operate nonstop. In Los Angeles, Jude Binkley, Cronkite News.
Many Arizonans rely on Amazon for deliveries, and activists in California want the retail giant to use cleaner shipping practices. Cronkite News reporter Amanda Day is in our Los Angeles bureau. She explains why activists are fighting for 100% zero-emission shipping.
We call on Amazon to adopt zero-emission shipping, to oppose environmental racism, and promote the clean, healthy environment.
That was a voice of one of the activists who gathered in Long Beach to fight for 100% zero-emission shipping from Amazon. Many major retail companies are using ships that run on fossil fuels, otherwise known as dirty ships.
Heavy fuel oil on the seas and at ports. Amazon poisons our climate, accelerates our path towards climate catastrophe. It poisons port communities who live close to these ships and have to breathe in particulate matter, sulfur oxide, nitrous oxide.
Air pollution is so bad in this area of Southern California, health advocates have nicknamed it Asthma Alley. Activists have come together to encourage zero-emission shipping to major retail companies like Amazon.
The presentation with the black powder of what the emissions, using the technologies of cleaning the air that they emit, that the black powder is that residue that's left over. So it's really crazy to see that that's what we're breathing in.
Amazon declined to comment on 100% zero-emission shipping with Cronkite News, but according to their website, there is a vision to have half of their shipments reach net zero carbon by 2030.
We are in communication with them, but we are also understanding that change takes people power, and so we're building that kind of people power from the outside to pressure them.
In Long Beach, Amanda Day, Cronkite News.
To learn more about dirty shipping practices and the fight for zero-emission shipping, you can visit pacificenvironment.org.
School districts nationwide are experiencing bus driver shortages. Here in Arizona, at least 11 school districts don't have enough drivers for their student populations. Cronkite News reporter Raven Payne tells us why that is and how administrations are trying to combat the shortage.
The Paradise Valley School District needs at least 37 bus drivers to drive this fleet of buses. Until then, they, like many other school districts, are changing schedules, remapping routes, and doing whatever they can to make sure they can get kids to school.
School bus driver shortages are not new to districts, but there are fewer drivers in these seats because of the pandemic. According to Paradise Valley School District Director of Transportation, Brandon George, the pandemic caused unpredictability.
I think the pandemic and the uncertainties of what may or may not happen caused a lot of people to leave the industry.
PV school district drivers now have to take double or even triple shifts or work longer hours every day.
There's no time for breaks. I mean, I'm just steady running the whole time. In the afternoon, I leave at 1:30 or 1:45, and I don't shut the bus off till 5:15 or 5:30.
Now, according to the Director of Transportation for PV schools, there are only about 70 bus drivers for 28,000 students in the district, and they're working hard to fill these seats.
We are doing a lot of advertisement. We put these signs on the buses. We have 40 signs we purchased, 20 on sped buses, and 20 on transit buses. We also use social media.
PV School District is also offering higher pay to attract more drivers.
What they're doing right now, they're giving us a $15 addenda, so it'll total to $75 a week, $300 a month.
With great retirement, 15 paid holidays off, and so much more, who wouldn't want to drive some kiddos around?
Requirements to become a bus driver include a clear driving record of at least 5 years, proof of vaccination, and letters of recommendation. The Paradise Valley School District is also hiring for non-driving bus aides to assist special education students who ride the bus. In Paradise Valley, Raven Payne, Cronkite News.
The NASCAR Championship race at Phoenix was the last competition for the 6th generation NASCAR race car. Cronkite News reporter Jack Johnson tells us how the eyes of the sport look to the next-gen car and the uncertainty it brings.
In February, the next-gen car will make its anticipated debut, and few know what to expect from a car that promises to bring major changes.
We don't know what to expect. I mean, it's going to be a bunch of changes. To me, it's going to be like the car tomorrow, the bigger car change that we've had in years past. So I don't know how we're going to prepare. I'm trusting the team to really kind of guide the ship in the right direction.
When the checkered flag waved at Phoenix Raceway, it did not just symbolize the end of a race, it symbolized the end of an era for NASCAR and its Gen 6 car. Next year, the next gen will make its debut, and NASCAR hopes it can propel this sport into the future. It's a future that NASCAR hopes will revitalize the sport. Empty patches in the grandstands have become a common sight as NASCAR has declined from its popularity peak in the mid-2000s. With this car,
NASCAR is swinging for the fences. Lower horsepower, wider tires, numbers pushed forward for more space for sponsors, 5 gears instead of 4, and no more team-built chassis are just a few of the pages of changes. For some fans, there are concerns about how it will race.
But I'm afraid that it's going to be the same over and over and over, and nobody's going to be able to pass anybody.
Recent champ Kyle Larson gathered some first impressions at Charlotte Motor Speedway's road course.
It's, got way more grip. Slower top speed, but way better grip, tires, brakes, everything. You can carry a lot more speed in the corners. The slow stuff isn't as slow.
No car was modified more in NASCAR history than the Gen 6. NASCAR hopes that when the next gen debuts, it will be much closer to a finished product. From Avondale, Jack Johnson, Cronkite News.
The new generation NASCAR build is expected to compete for points when the season kicks off in February 2022 at the Daytona 500.
Phoenix Raceway, home of the NASCAR Championship race, was transformed into the OffRoad Expo for the first time. Our reporter Ashlyn Register has more in Avondale.
Over the last 20 years, the OffRoad Expo was held in California and now has extended to Arizona. It is an event to celebrate the off-road and sand sport community.
Vehicles, products, tires, wheels, pretty much anything you could think of that you might need for your ATV or UTV is going to be here. If you enjoy the outdoors, if you're an outdoors enthusiast, there's probably something you're going to find here.
The Off-Road Expo gives companies such as Nitto the opportunity to reach their customer base through in-person interactions, to answer questions and talk with their customers.
It's great to be out here and interact with the people that use our products and want to be the diehard and goes to work during the week and wheels on the weekend.
This is the first time that Phoenix Raceway has hosted the Off-Road Expo. This is a partnership they hope to continue for years to come.
When we completed our renovation at Phoenix Raceway, we had visions of becoming an entertainment destination. And Off-Road Expo is a great example of another thing that we can do here that's different and unexpected.
We reached out to them and we were looking at different venues, and obviously just the amount of space they have is amazing. The track's been a wonderful partner. They've gone out of their way to help us, and it's been a great experience.
With moving to Phoenix Raceway, the event has encountered different challenges.
The logistics of it, where booths are placed, where people park, just a lot of the stuff like that. And obviously this is the first time here, so we're going to learn a lot and be even better, bigger and better for next year.
The Off-Road Expo is one example of the type of events Phoenix Raceway hopes to host in the years to come. In Avondale, Ashlyn Register, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. Next on Break It Down, why Arizona continues to struggle with a teacher shortage. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Break It Down is brought to you in part by Mayo Clinic and viewers like you.
First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our educators out there who are doing incredible things for our children across the state. They are shaping the next generation, and it's such an important profession. It impacts everything: the economy, healthcare, the communities directly. And unfortunately, Arizona is continuing to see a teacher shortage. As a former educator myself and someone who recruited teachers into the classroom, all who I care deeply about, I just am really excited to figure this out and break down this topic with Dr. Driscoll. I'm thrilled that you're here with me today, and thank you for breaking it down.
No problem. I'm glad to be here.
All right, Dr. Driscoll. So I saw recently some data that came out at the beginning of 2021. It said that 27% of teacher vacancies across the state remain unfilled. And you're the perfect person to talk about this because of your extensive background working in schools directly. So tell me, what do you think is going on? What do you think is causing this teacher shortage?
I actually think it's a multitude of things. So first, I would say the biggest thing is that we haven't made teaching a attractive position in the media, in the mainstream, how we treat our teachers. So the first thing is to make it, I call it sexy. Teaching is not a sexy profession, and so that's a big part of it. Another thing is just the pay. And so in Arizona, it's kind of unique, depending on which publication you read. We're 48th to 49th to 47th. And so we have to be competitive, but we also have to do a better job of explaining to people the benefits, not only salary-wise, but your work schedule, the quality of life, that I don't think we do a good job of doing in our marketing. And so that's another big thing why. And then also is special ed. So you say 27%, but if you look at that 27%, I probably say 80% of that is special education teachers. We're seeing across the board, across the nation, shortage in special ed. And the district I currently work in, we had at the beginning of the year 70 positions, special ed positions unfilled. And so the bulk of our positions that are that go unfilled are special ed. And we're just not seeing a lot of those teachers coming out of our teacher preparation programs.
Got it. What about those teachers that are currently in the classrooms, right? For that retention piece, what do you think needs to happen to move that needle to ensure that we're keeping our educators to continue through to this fall?
One is to show them their worth. And what I mean by that is like the environment that they work in. And so I would tell you, if you go and look at across districts across the state, the schools that don't have high turnover rate are the schools where the leaders has a captivated audience and created an environment that people want to work in. We also need to make sure our benefits, our extra fringe packages are competitive across the board. That helps, but it's really the work environment. People have to want to work for people that they enjoy working with. And if we don't do a good job in putting our schools with leaders that teachers want to work for, that's another thing that ends up happening with our teachers in terms of retention. The biggest thing I see from our surveys, and I look at our national, our district, and our state, is the work experience, the work in the relationships they have with their supervisors is one of the number one causes why teachers leave our profession that are already in.
With the school leader pipeline, how would you say that is looking in Arizona, right? We think and focus so much on the teacher retention piece of it. How about our school leader and principal pipeline? Where are we at with that?
I think we have some room there to grow. I know institutions like ASU are doing a phenomenal job of getting us new leaders, but I think also from the district standpoint, we have to prepare our leaders for the roles in which they're going to encompass. And I think that's on us because we're putting leaders in situations where they're not successful for. So one of the big things I would tell you about research is we put our most inexperienced principals in our toughest schools. And so why do we do that? And we wonder why we have a shortage of principals and a turnaround and turnover rate of our principals as well. And it's because we're not setting them up for success. So we have to give principals the resources so they can be successful, so they can create those environments that cultivate learning and people want to work there and excited to be there. But we have to set them up for those success and give them the resources to do that as well.
When it's your first year and you don't have that experience, anything goes, right? I mean, it is such a learning curve. So I think to your point, having principals, school leaders, mentor teachers, that community support is really important.
And to piggyback off of that, what you're saying there, think about your first year of teaching. You probably were told, here, go to this mentor teacher, and they're going to help you. And so one of the things I would tell you is, as a principal, we need to say, no, first year teacher, we need to have touch points with you so you stay connected. Did you know that during this week, report cards are going to go out? Are you prepared to give report cards? And so helping teachers that, and that's another way of retaining teachers as we get them in there environments.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And what about with your experience, obviously, in your role and being within the education industry? Are you seeing the shortage be specifically in, depending on like the demographics of the communities? So for example, in lower income communities, or is this also happening in more affluent communities as well?
Yeah, I would tell you the general is we see it a lot in our lower income communities.
Got it.
And I tell you that because those are perceived to be tougher. But I would tell you in some of our low income communities where we have fabulous principals there, they don't have the turnaround. They don't have that turnover rate. So, but historically and demographically, yes, we see much more in our higher, higher, lower socioeconomic schools than in our more affluent areas, the turnover rate.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Dr. Driscoll, there's got to be some bright spots to this, right? I'm sure there are some schools and principals that are doing the ideas and resources that you mentioned earlier. What are some bright spots that you are seeing to try to close this teacher shortage?
You know, and I don't want to steal the thunder, but we're in Mesa have a partnership with ASU with the Next Education Workforce, and those we're redefining what we do for education, and it goes back to those resources. So we're using a teaming approach to say it kind of that phrase, it takes a village to raise.
Yes.
And we're having multiple people touching our students, where instead of having one teacher, they have 4. And so that has been really awesome. I'm seeing great results from that in terms of the teacher experience, where teachers are saying, man, I enjoy coming to work because I have a team, I have all this support. I see administrators being excited because they feel like they're doing impacting the education, but impacting the learning environment for their students. And then in turn, their students are seeing the benefits for it. And so we're seeing that in pockets. We have that in affluent schools, but we also have that in our most needy schools, where they were struggling to get teachers to actually even come to their school because they weren't attractive. They're now not having that because they have created a pipeline of teachers through their school. So I'm excited about that.
I hope this conversation continues everywhere. And Dr. Driscoll, thank you so much for breaking down this topic with me, and I really appreciate your perspective on this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.